Good morning, everyone. How are you all? Welcome to this new video of updates from London for the first time ever on our new digital TV, MRTV. Hope you're all well and enjoy the new program that MRTV is offering. Welcome again to this new updates from London video. My name is Emanuele Barrasso. I'm the UK Secretary of the Roosevelt Movement. You should know me by now. This is actually the first video on our new channel. So I want to let's talk today about a topic which has been, following the COVID crisis, has been sort of paramount in both the UK and Italy. And the topic today is education. As you all might know, the schools in the UK opened on the 1st of June. Although there has been, whereas in Italy, for example, they've postponed the opening up until September, just to comply with the new safety rules. Where in London, in the UK in general, they decided to open on the 1st of June, although attendance wasn't compulsory. So parents, especially parents and students, from secondary school. And parents for the primary school were given the opportunity whether they wanted to send sort of the kids or not. Although not all ears actually were welcoming students. I think when it comes to primary school, was nursery reception, year 1 and year 6, and then secondary education was year 10, year 11, if I'm not entirely wrong. Also, when it comes to class sizes, there could only be 15 students at a time. Although due to the sort of latest news on the crisis, not all the classrooms were actually full to the very to the limit of students. And of course, as in Italy, we saw the distance of, there has to be like distance of 2 meters in between the teachers and the students. So what happened this week, hence the video, and hence today's video, we saw finally the new rules have been confirmed for September. And there have been some sort of like new, there was a list of rules which I'm not going to go through with you one by one, but I just thought in this video we could actually point out what are the new rules in September in the UK. And also we are in 2020, so 10 years exactly after the first sort of Tory government went into office. 2010, David Cameron won the election, and then the then Education Secretary was Michael Gove. So I just want to talk about how sort of the education system has been faring over the past 10 years, and also Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, made a comment, did a couple of interviews a few days ago, early this week. It was Monday and Tuesday, I can't remember well. And he talked about investment. He basically mentioned a 10-year investment program for crumbling schools. And also, to the happiness of all of us at the Roosevelt Movement, he was talking about investment in schools, and he talked about, the kind of Rooseveltian awakening of the UK. There was like short interviews. I just want to show a couple of extracts from those interviews, so we can actually contextualize where we're coming from in terms of education. So shall we just dive into the deep end? I want to show you something which is a presentation which I've done, and is sort of the backbone of my video today. I thought, with help of a few props, it will make sort of it will make what I'm trying to say probably a bit smoother. So let's just bear with me. There you go. UK education, share. Hopefully you'll be able to see it by now. I hope so. Okay, so UK education for 3rd July, because we are. So what are the new rules for schools for the September 2020 start? As I said to you, there was a list of rules. I'm not going to go through one by one all of them, but I've just thought I've taken out sort of the most important rules. First of all, fines for parents. These definitely represents a switch from the past. Whereas now, for the summer term, when I say summer term in the UK, it's probably from sort of Easter onwards up until the end of July, when the school term finishes. For the last summer term, the students were invited to go to school. They didn't have to go to school. It wasn't mandatory because, of course, we didn't really know what was happening with coronavirus. And of course, class sizes were limited to 15 people. Whereas from September, if students don't go to school, when it comes to primary schools, if parents don't send their kids to school, there will be fines for parents. If we're talking about fines for up to 120, 150 pounds, this is kind of the price market we're talking about. Second of all, there will be no face coverings in none of the schools, which is great. I think also from an educational perspective, face coverings definitely, they'll make, I guess, the job of students and teachers as well much more difficult. It will be almost impossible to teach with their face covered. Compulsory engagement with the NHS Test and Trace. The NHS Test and Trace is an app which basically tests, which basically trace all the sort of people which have sort of COVID symptoms and all the people they've been in touch with. The engagement with this app, with this sort of system, is compulsory also because, that's also important, in the UK they've created these sort of bubbles. In Italian we would say bolle, social bubbles, in which, for example, let's take, for example, primary school. Each class in a primary school, which is up to 30 kids, so those classes have gone from 15 students now to 30 kids, is one bubble. So each classroom is a bubble, whereas when it comes to secondary school, the whole year, whereas 8th grade, 7th grade, all year, and we're talking about up to 240 students, is another bubble. So that's the kind of difference that the government wanted to make. And although some of these rules have been criticized, but the education secretary said, this is, in a way, this kind of rules would help education and students, to get back on track and to get back behind their desk and sort of keep on learning. So in case anyone is suspected within this bubble, in case anyone is suspected to have like COVID symptoms or have been in touch with other COVID symptoms, in a way, the whole bubble will have to sort of, they will be they will have to be sort of sent home. And of course, there will be contingency plans for school if the area is put in a local lockdown. I mean, we've seen in the UK that the area of Leicester, which is sort of in sort of central England, let's say, it's been put in local lockdown because there's been a spike in cases in coronavirus cases. So there will be contingency plans, so they will revert back to e-learning in case the school gets, in case an area gets put in local lockdown, and then maths and English push. This is actually quite important because we will see it later as well. The difference in a way between a Labour government in office and a Conservative government in office is that the Conservative government, they will push for the so-called core subjects, maths and English. So there will be a push for maths and English. They were talking about tutorial sessions for kids. of all ages, starting from September, sort of to catch up with all the sort of lessons lost over the past 6 months due to the lockdown. So there would be a push in maths and English classes. And the last point I wanted to focus your attention on is focus on tackling persistently disruptive behavior. The past 6 months, one of the consequences, I guess, of lockdown is that there have been sort of, I guess, mental issues, not just for adults, I guess, but also for kids. I guess, especially younger kids, they found themselves in a way a bit lost in this kind of new situation, sort of sad and tragic situation, and so they anticipate there will be episodes there will be more episodes compared to the past of bad behavior. So there will be a massive focus on tackling persistently disruptive behavior. And this kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rules. These are the kind of 6 rules that, and also, we were talking about these kind of bubbles, and that I want to draw your attention to. And also, I just want to add a few more to this. The teacher, there will be no social distance for kids at primary school. It will be very difficult for a primary school kid to keep social distance, as you might understand. Also, there will be, for secondary school kids, there has to be at least 1 meter distance in between them. And also, even the teachers, for example, whether primary or secondary, they have to keep sort of distance from the kids. They have to keep their distance from the kids for no more than 15 minutes. There has to be less than 1 meter in between them and the kids, or them and their colleagues, or less than 1 meter for no longer than 15 minutes. Okay, from a behavioral point of view, again, it'll be very this kind of rules. I guess that'll be very, very difficult to execute, especially in a social environment like a school, and also, in an environment like in which the interaction in between kids, and also kids and teachers, students and teacher, or even between colleagues, bouncing ideas back and forth. It'll be a very sort of difficult thing to achieve, but the government seems to be optimistic about this. So yes. And also, actually, one of the other rules I want to draw your attention to is desks. We have to be in rows of 1s facing the, of course, 1 meter from each other, and also facing the teacher. This is a kind of going back in time when it comes to UK education. This is a return to that kind of Victorian style of education. Back to the Victorian ages, you had single rows of students separated from each other, all facing the teachers, which is in sort of sheer contrast with the other way of learning and teaching, which is the more social way, when kids are all in a circle, and the teacher can be sort of in the middle or on one side of the room, explain the lessons to them. We have two names to define these kind of 2 ways of teaching. First one, facing the teacher, is called a behaviorist. Again, coming from the Victorian age, Victorian era, whereas the other one, kids in circle, which is called social constructivist. There's just a couple of definitions which I thought, which you might have come across. I thought I'd sort of throw it there. So these kind of the rules for the September 2020 start. Again, hot topic, education hot topic, both in UK and in Italy. But the one question I want to the next part of our video is what has happened to the UK education in the last 10 years. You've got a big birthday, 10 years of Conservative government. First Tory government, David Cameron won the election in 2010. Although it was an parliament, but so they governed in conjunction with the Lib Dems. So what happened in the UK education over the last 10 years? First and foremost, there has been a big drop in education spending. Big drop because the going back, I remember 10 years ago when the new Tory government came into power following like 13 years of Labour government, first Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, they announced this kind of big austerity. And of course, when it comes to austerity, the first education is one of the first sectors, one of the first departments to actually feel the axe. And of course, big drop in education spending from 95 billion a year to 87 billion, more or less. So there has been a drop of 7 billion, which in 10 years' time is quite a sheer drop. And also in terms of percentage of the GDP, we've gone from 5.6% to 4.7% of the GDP. Again, a sheer drop in terms of spending per student. If I can draw your attention to these numbers, Friday morning numbers, not a good thing, but I think in a way numbers help us contextualize the topic. 5.69% to 4.27% for GDP. There's been a 25% drop in the spend per student, which is a massive, considering it's been like a 10-year gap. So what has happened as well, apart from the big education spend? And when it comes to spending, if you I'm not going to show it now, but there's loads of, you can actually see on the internet different graphs from the Institute for Fiscal Studies, they publish every year, the spending according to the different sectors. Education is one of the ones that has suffered the most. Also because education in the UK is the second most invested public sector. So what is the sort of public sector after health? Health, NHS. So having suffered such a huge drop in both investment and hence spend per student, it's been a massive, sort of in a way, it's been a massive, I guess, minus or no for the UK and the education system. There's been a national curriculum in 2013. The other curriculum was, we have to go back to Tony Blair's years, 1999, and the UK education secretary at the time was David Blunkett. So they have a new curriculum in 2013, which was tough and rigorous. Two adjectives we have found. Probably they best explain what the sort of the stance they probably best summarize what the education curriculum was. Again, when it comes to conservatives in power, then now we can make the difference between Labour and Tory. When it comes to education, Labour is more, more creative. They push. They give importance to what we call foundation subjects. They tend to give more freedom in a way to teachers. So yeah, there's a big flow of creativity when it comes to education, whereas the Conservative, on the other side, just bear in mind, I'm painting with a very broad brush, the kind of the two types of education, but roughly we can make some sort of, this is the kind of parallel we can make. Whereas Tory on the other side, they tend to focus on core subjects like maths and English. Science is also another core subject, although UK students don't get assessed on science, only on maths and English. So they tend to focus on core subjects like maths and English. They're very results driven, and then they tend result driven. Sort of in a way bigger classes, whereas Labour they tend to prefer like smaller classes in terms of being able, giving the teacher the possibility of a more individual and a more tailored education according to the kids. As I said, the education for the Tories is more militant, core subject, results driven. And of course, less independence for the teachers. Again, this is painting sort of the policies of a very broad brush, but this is kind of generally speaking, this is what usually happens. And of course, the last 10 years we had a teachers' pay freeze. So the inflation has gone up. The teachers' pay has been frozen. I guess not a good time for the teachers. There was a survey back in beginning 2019. There's a survey in which they basically said that 4 out of 5 teachers interviewed had to buy their own equipment and the whole stationery for students. So they had to fork out the money themselves to do projects and certain things. And also in that kind of research, they were interviewed about 2,000 head teachers were interviewed all across the country, and 87% of them say that they definitely, in real terms, they had less money than in previous years. And you can see all the graphs on the internet. I'm not going to bore you with more numbers, but you can see how the investment in UK education over the last 10 years has gone down. Now, why am I saying this? Because if we go ahead, what's going to happen to the UK in the next 10 years? Well, hence the purpose of my video. There's 2 videos I want to show you, and they both feature our Prime Minister Boris Johnson, in which he talks about investing in education. The first one is more generic, where the second one is more education specific. Let's have a look at them. They literally last 1 minute each, and then we can briefly explain what is actually if is onto something. So that's the first one. That was the first video. So he sort of talks about big investment in different sectors, and he also talks about education and further education, which represents, I guess, from an investment perspective, a definite change as opposed to the last 10 years. Big investment in all the sectors, and especially education, further education. So he said, I'm gonna allocate like £1 billion. He was talking about a 10-year building program, which he's allocated the first £10 billion to for spread, of course, for the next 10 years to repair the sort of crumbling schools. He's going to start with the first 50 and then carry on with the rest. Just one little thing: when Labour was in power before 2010, they had inaugurated. They were about to kick off a program called Building Schools for the Future, in which, exactly in the same fashion, they would sort of take crumbling schools and they would renovate them. So they had already allocated some money. And of course, when the austerity kicked in, this is one of the first projects which got scrapped off. And at the time, they were planning to repair about 715 schools. One of the first projects to be thrown out of the window. So now the new education, I guess, is all positive news because it represents change from the past. But let's see what he actually says about education in our second video. Oh, sorry. There you go. So this is a quote from Boris Johnson. What the government has got to do right now is keep going with an activist, interventionist approach. So in the second video, he talks about education more specifically, and he talks about 10-year investment program, 1 billion, 1 billion for crumbling schools. The first 50 schools will be addressed, and also in the past few days he was talking about the 1 billion to recover from COVID-19. 1 billion would be spread across the country, across all schools. So there would be like tutorials for kids to catch up on subjects like maths and English. There were talks of sort of Saturday classes, after school classes, to allow children sort of to catch up also in a very tailored way. I think from this, what we can do, and that's sort of the end of the presentation, also the takeaway points. Progressivism in spending and investment in UK education, yes. There's definitely, there has been like a shift compared to the past. When it comes to education needs investment. We need to invest in our kids' future. We need to invest in facilities. It's all good so far. He says the cash is there. Although from so it's all good there. We need to invest. Especially some of the schools are, on average, are 60 years old, so they need like restoration works. They need works to be done, to let them to make them to update them, to make them modern, and sort of where kids actually, they make them like a nice environment where kids actually can learn. But also, all these points, the one thing I'm struggling to see, that's my criticism to the government, is there's been a big focus on mental health issues. 1 billion program we're investing 1 billion program into the economy, into education, because we want people to catch up with subjects like maths and English, which are important, yes, but very little emphasis has been given on mental health issues, not just for adults, also for kids, and on their emotional well-being. So on kind of like school community and the re-socialization of children, very little has been said about these things. And mental health issues are pivotal, needless to say. And kids I guess in this kind of, especially younger kids, primary schools we're talking about, they feel themselves incredibly lost. When it comes to, they couldn't go to school, they couldn't see their friends. Some of them, of course, they struggle to understand why we've been sent home. Why do we need to stay home? I want to learn, I want to see my friends, and I want to be in the class. So lots of kids are experiencing this kind of, mental health issues, and kind of problems. So very little has been said about how these kind of issues, emotional well-being of children and their resocialization, we're not trying to twist that, will be implemented. Stop. Just want to go back to our. Sorry, hope you can see me. Hope you can see me now. Oops, sorry. So very little has been said about. Very little has been said about the mental health, emotional well-being of kids, which is a big problem for me. Especially in a time which which has been dramatic, has been sort of out of the ordinary, especially for young kids. Not much has been said about those issues, which are equally important. Of course, kids have to catch up on subjects, and they have to catch up on other things and on their learning. But what about their their emotional well-being? Kids are suffering from that. Very little from the government has been said about that. Also, this is my second criticism, not just the emotional well-being of kids, but also something. My second point is, yes, let's invest in COVID let's invest money in this kind of schools which need repair work. Great for the government to have done that, but what about giving more money to the schools? Not just for catching up on one-to-one tutorials on tutorial kids, but what about giving more money to the school? So as we've seen in the survey, so kids don't have to so kids don't have to in a way sort of teachers that have to pay them, fork out the money themselves to pay for school, to pay for stationery, material, and any other things that that can be useful for their job. So investment, yes, but also we need more investment to give money to the school for actual project and work. I think what government has announced so far is great. Let's welcome this with open arms. Huge investment, great. Let's start, but then we need to build on that. And let's not forget kids. Let's not forget, because those are the people. They are our future. Not just the kids, but also teenagers. First, both primary and secondary school. Let's not forget them. Let's not forget their emotional well-being. Let's not forget their mental health issues and how it could have been affected by such a sad and tragic event like the coronavirus crisis. Investment. So my message to you, I want to wrap up today's video, and my message to you is great investment, yes, well done on that. But let's build on that. We need more. Kids need more. Teachers need more money. So big investment in school. I would love to see the next wave of investment to go directly to the school for the actual, for actual projects, to be invested in actual school communities, programs to make, to improve their school communities, to make children sort of re-socialize, and also to take care of those mental issues which might have arisen during the coronavirus crisis. This is our wish. Of course, we are the Roosevelt movement. When I heard Rooseveltian awakening, as we saw in this video, we were actually quite, we were in tears, very happy, because this is what we need, especially in a difficult time like the period post-coronavirus. This is what we need. We need a huge investment, and we need actually more investment. Let's invest in school, crumbling school, yes, great, but also let's invest in kids as individuals, as people, as human beings. Let's invest in them, in their emotional well-being and physical well-being as well. Let's invest in school communities, and let's also give more money to the school so they can perform their task of building our future, of helping children build their confidence, their future, help society thrive as a whole. this is the end of the video. That's the end of the video. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll leave you. Keep on watching MRTV, our program, and yes, and I'll see you next week. Again, Roosevelt Movement UK. Follow us on Facebook. Roosevelt Movement UK. Also, we have you've got the MRTV website, mrtv.it. Also, Roosevelt Movement UK. It's www.rm/london.co.uk. And I'll wave you goodbye, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.